Alright, what's going on guys, it's Epoxy, and we have received an overwhelming amount of information since my last large upload, so I want to apologize for the very delayed video. There's information in this video leading all the way back to Night City Wire episode 3, but there's also information from the last few days. This is everything I have missed, so as always there will be detailed timestamps for you to jump around the video as you please. Just keep in mind that you may miss some important details along the way. We'll be covering everything from Night City Wire episode 4 details, info released along Night City Wire episode 3, breaking down the new Cyberpunk website that went live, analyzing a ridiculous amount of new images, sharing some updated gameplay, and much more. So, without further ado, let's roll the intro. So let's begin with the recently announced dates and details for Night City Wire episode 4, which we got from the Cyberpunk 2077 Twitter the other day, and it states the following. The 4th episode of Night City Wire is coming next Thursday, October 15th at 6 p.m. Central European Summer Time. And for some quick time conversion, that is 9 a.m. Pacific Time on October 15th, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on October 15th, and 2 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on October 16th. This time, we'll go into the details about the looks, sounds, and specs of Cyberpunk 2077 vehicles. As usual, you can expect new gameplay footage, announcements, and more. Attached to the tweet is a GIF of V driving the Mizutani sports car, but this time it looks quite different. It's got the roof down, plenty of sporty looking details, and alternate blacked out rims. So this gives you an idea of the range of vehicle variations you can find in Night City. It also looks like this takes place in Rancho Coronado, which is within the Santo Domingo district. There's a blacked out Chevron SUV which is associated with both Militech and Arasaka, but it looks as if V is getting shot at by 6th Street, which is both the faction that oversees the sub-district and has a very stupid name. We can also see that V is wearing some sort of yellow outfit. Not sure if this is a tracksuit, jumpsuit, or just a combination of a yellow jacket and pants, but we have previously seen V wearing yellow pants in the Postcards of Night City trailer. So if you want to look like a walking banana, you can definitely do so. Either way, I'm just happy we'll be getting a deep dive into the vehicles available in the game, which a lot of people have been begging for, especially after the confirmation of no vehicle customization. So I'm hoping this episode will lessen the worries and will show plenty of variation in the vehicles. And as always, I will be live streaming the event here on the channel, so be sure to check the channel page for the scheduled stream, and of course, be sure to set that reminder. I'd love to see you all there. We had an amazing stream for Night City Wire episode 3. So I'm interested to see how this one goes. Now, we've also recently received a leak of the full physical edition map and postcard set for Cyberpunk 2077, which is the map and postcards that will come with every physical copy of the game. The map gives us a black and white satellite image look of the game's map, with all of the major roads highlighted in yellow. We've also got the labels for the districts and sub-districts, as well as some more specific locations. For City Center, we've got the sub-districts Corpo Plaza and Downtown. We can also spot that Arasaka Tower is a red highlighted location, which we'll discuss in a moment. For Haywood, we've got the sub-districts Wellsprings, The Glen, and Vista Del Rey. For Watson, we've got the sub-districts Little China, Kabuki, Arasaka Waterfront, and Northside Industrial District. And above all that is the Northern Oil Fields. For Westbrook, we've got the sub-districts Japantown, North Oak, and Charter Hill. For Santo Domingo, we've got the sub-districts Arroyo and Rancho Coronado, in which we can also spot 2 red highlighted locations, one of which is the power plant and another being the dam. For Pacifica, we've got the sub-districts Coast View and West Wind Estates, with the stadium being a red highlighted location. Night City is also set within the Del Coronado Bay, which is on the coast of the Pacific Ocean. I also just want to note that this map doesn't seem to include the entirety of the Badlands and is primarily focused on Night City itself. We've seen how expansive the Badlands are, they are massive, and this doesn't quite show that scale, so just keep in mind that the area outside of Night City seems to be a bit cut off. As for the red highlighted locations, that includes the spaceport for Orbital Air, the Arasaka Tower in Corpo Plaza, the power plant in Arroyo, the dam seen from Rancho Coronado, and the stadium in Pacifica. And there has been a lot of speculation in the community as to why these specific locations are highlighted in red, with a lot of people suggesting that they could be potential DLC locations. And I don't think that's the case. I think that it's much more simple than that. I think they're just locked locations that are only accessible during specific points in the story or during specific in-game events. I say that as we already know we can access the Arasaka Tower in certain situations, so it's not a DLC location. The stadium is why I suggest it could also be for in-game events as well, but that's just my 2 cents. Now, we've also recently gotten 2 new CGI commercials for the game featuring Keanu Reeves, which were played at the NBA Finals. And while there isn't much new info about the game itself from these commercials, we did get to see a car that is clearly designed after a Bugatti. It also looks to be the Rayfield car that we got a small glimpse at during the Life Paths trailer. These commercials are definitely worth the watch if you haven't seen them already, just because of the ever so breathtaking Keanu Reeves and the high quality CGI clips. And honestly, it's just nice to see the game getting some more mainstream advertisements in preparation for launch. That just solidifies to you, on top of the fact that the game has now gone gold, which I made an entire video on, that there will not be another delay. We've also been getting a lot more info on the non-English voiceovers for the game. First of which was the Japanese gameplay shown off at the Tokyo Game Show 2020. I'll let some of the gameplay play out here, which you're free to skip through using the timestamps, and then I'll dive into some of the lesser known gameplay from this event afterwards.
ボットだ。モデル MT-0D12 通称フラットヘッド。
それが何だってんだよ。ああ？
ブリックに代金を支払ってやる。俺は受け取りに来ただけだ。必要ならロイスと直接話をしてもいいが。
いや、俺と話せ。俺はダムだ。座れ、そこのソファだ。座れ。お前もだ、デカブツ。
俺はいい。
何かぶつけてやがんだ。ソファに座れっつってるだけだろうが。
断る。
いい度胸してんじゃねえか。座らねえと頭に鉛をぶち込むぞ。
ジャック、座れよ。
ろくなことにならねえぞ。くっそ。
さて、景気づけと行こうじゃねえか。ほらよ。聞くだろう。よし、本題に入るか。さてと、こいつがフラットヘッドだ。モデル MT-0D12。
確認したい。
しょうがねえな。こいつはすげえぞ。ダイナミックな熱工学迷彩装甲に加え、完全没入型の認識システムをレイブンで操作可能。さらに新型アクチュエーターにはスタン、バナジウム、ケブラーの合金が使われてる。これを見てみろ。完全統合型リンクだ。こいつが壁を登り、天井からぶら下がったりしたら
酔い止めが必要になるな。
気に入ったか。
ブリックに支払い済みだ。
ブリックにねえ。ブリックなんてやつここにいるか？いねえよな。
勘弁してくれ。2回も払わせるなんておかしいだろ。
おかしいかどうか決めんのはお前じゃねえ。俺が払えっつったら黙って払うんだよ。とにかくこいつが欲しければまずはエディを見せだ。
落ち着け。ここに入ってる。
そんなすんなり出していいのか？からかいがいのないやつだな。
俺はチップを出し、あんたはボットを出す。それだけだ。簡単だろ。
ボース、最近のボーイスカウトじゃ交渉の仕方を教えてくれねえのか？そういや、 誰の使いか聞いてなかったな。お前のボスの名前を。
デショーン、エクスターデショーン。
エクスター・デショーン。パシフィカの半分をめちゃくちゃにしたあのデブ。
ああ、おかげさまでピンピンしてる。なんなら伝言を伝えてやろうか。
で、話に応じる気になったか？クレジットだ。
とにかくフラットヘッドは優秀だぜ。何に使う気かは知らねえがね。
クソベクターがクソだ。侵入されるぞ。殺せヤンバーの首をか
エブ、待ってたよ。
彼は B、 例の BD の件で連れてきたの。こっちはジュディ、最高のブレインダンスエディターよ。
ちょっとやめてよ、ムズムズする。
よろしく、ジュディ。
BD はコンパイル済みよ。
どう？なんとかなりそう？
まだ生に近いけど、ま、大丈夫でしょ。
とにかく B が深く潜り込めるならいいわ。
じゃあ早速調整から始めようか。たまに舞い込んでくるジグジグストリートのどぎついポルノに比べたら全然余裕だから。
じゃあ早速潜って直に見てもらおうかしら。いいわね。
B はどう？生もののブレインダンス、これが初体験でしょ。
どうとでもなる。さっさと始めてくれ。
了解。じゃあ座って、早速始めるから。まずは感覚プロフィールの作成ね。
どうぞご自由に。でも痛いのは勘弁してくれ。
大丈夫、これは痛くないから。それじゃあじっと座って私を見て。分析ソフトを実行するよ。ちょっとヒリヒリするから。
分かった。
OK、 次は視覚とその他感覚信号の設定ね。視力検査の時みたいにこの2つの画面をよく見て。
毎回このめんどくさい調整をやんなきゃいけないのか。
そういうわけじゃないけど、やる価値はある。見てればわかるから、BD 分析の凄さがね。あとは通覚リミッターを入れて。よし、準備完了。じゃあプロフィールのテストから始めるよ。サンプル BD を使ってエディターに慣れてもらう。さて、どれがいいかな。
私の記録を使えば時間の無駄じゃない？
リスクヘッジよ。すぐ終わるから。確かここら辺にあった。
始めてくれ。
ええ、先に調整済みのもので慣れてもらって、それから編集モードに入りましょう。ライブ開始まで3、2、1。
余計なことはしなくていい。中に入って現金を奪い外に出る。あとはスタジオのサイコ野郎どもにこの BD を売るだけだ。
ああ、分かってる。
いいか、出し惜しみはなしだ。アドレナリンが出れば出るほど BD の値段も上がるからな。よし、行け。
全員伏せろ。さっさとしやがれ。床にキスするんだよ。金を出せ。さっさとしねえとぶっ殺すぞ。
待ってくれ、落ち着いて。
早くしろ。頭吹っ飛ばされてえのか。
大丈夫。コルチゾールとアドレナリンが急上昇したけど、ホルモンブロッカーが効いてくれた。あなたの体は何ともないよ。
すごく強烈だった。男の痛みやストレス、それにあれは希望か、いろいろと混じってる感じだった。
あの前にブースターでも使ってたのかもね。ま、心配はいらないよ。設定は完璧だし、編集モードに切り替えるね。
So that's a good look at the Cyberpunk 2077 Japanese voiceover, but we also got to look at the uncut Dex meeting gameplay. So here's what that looks and sounds like.
ついにファミリー全員が揃ったな。
ある意味初めまして。
フラットヘッドは B、デクスに見せてやろうぜ。さてと、まあ座ってくれ。しかしいいブースだ。防音か？
ジャッキー。
まあまあ、その通りだミスター・ウェルズ。デリケートな話をするからな。だがその前にミスター B に質問したいことがある。エブリン・パーカーの件はどうだった？
うまくいったと思う。彼女が記録した生ものの BD でコンペキプラザの中を歩き回れた。
ああ、バウンからすでに聞いている。
じゃあ標的は知ってるんだな。頼信荒坂、帝王の息子にして後継者。
名前だけは立派だが何の才能もない男だ。そしてパーカーのお友達か。で、彼女は打ち合わせ以外に何か言ってたか？
俺と会ってみたかっただけのようだ。
会ってみたかっただけねえ。
計画の話をしよう。状況はどうなってる？
これを。
じゃあお言葉に甘えて。
手はずは私たちが整えておいた。作戦自体はシンプルよ。
具体的には聞かせてくれ。まずはデラマンに乗ってコンペキまで行ってもらう。偽名を使って正面から堂々と入る。その後バグの手引きでホテルのサブネットに侵入しろ。
フラットヘッドも使うけど。
あとは頼信のペントハウスに忍び込みレリックをいただくだけだ。
当然隠密行動が基本よ。犠牲者ゼロが理想ね。いい？
バグが常時無線で援護する。何か質問はあるか？
大丈夫だ。
素晴らしい。待てよ、ここに集まった肝心の目的がまだだ。新米の取り分は常に 30%。 交渉の余地はない。ああ、30？ この仕事で安全な役回りなどない。お前らが取るリスクに応じた額だ。
仕方ない。構わないだろ。
本気かよ。
飲むしかない。それにこれで十分だ。
タグ、仕方ねえな。さあ、最後に一つ。コンペキは武器の持ち込み厳禁だ。セキュリティゲートがある。銃は車の中に置いてフラットヘッドをケースに入れて持っていけ。
それらしく見えるよ。スーツも用意しておいたから。
至れり尽くせりだな。
助かるよ。
で、せかすわけじゃねえが、金はいつもらえるんだ？それはミス・パーカー次第だ。まあ、1、2週間といったところだろう。
その間はただ口を開けてぼーっとしてろと？
身を潜めていろ。荒坂に気づかれたら終わりだからな。さて、ギリシャ人曰く人生は宴、去るタイミングが肝心だ。車は外に待たせてある。
私もそろそろ行くわ。本番前に通信の準備をしとかないと。他に何かあれば今のうちに言って。
大丈夫だ。もう聞くことはない。
じゃあ頑張りましょう。
さて、準備はいいか？
行こう。善は急げだ。
銭じゃなくてか？
So during that clip, we spotted Jackie, T-Bug, and Dex in the meeting with the spider bot on the table, with an Arasaka building, H. Conowell, R. Victorino, the spider bot, Yorinobu Arasaka, and the Relic Immortality chip being referenced during the meeting. We also got some new extended gunplay footage, which sadly is also in horrendous quality, but a lot of this footage was in the latest Gangs of Night City trailer, which I'll have my ultra late but super in-depth breakdown released for tomorrow. So I'll be skipping over any of the Tools of Destruction footage that is included in this extended gunplay, but here's a quick summary of what we see during this newer gameplay. Starting with the Nakota assault rifle mowing down the Maelstrom, the Constitutional Arms in the firefight with Dum Dum, Royce, and the other Maelstrom members, some in-game footage of using the Midnight Arms SOAR 22 shotgun, more gameplay using the Nakota rifle, this time in the Valentino's bar known as El Coyote, infiltrating the Wraith-infested abandoned Corpo Bud factory in the Badlands with the Nakota rifle, using the Malorian Arms revolver against Militech soldiers in the Badlands at night, more Nakota rifle versus the Wraiths gameplay, the Royce boss fight using what looks to be the DR-12 Quasar tech weapon, using what seems to be a new or highly customized pistol against the Valentinos, fresh new katana gameplay against the Tiger Claws. I do want to note here that this is developer mode, so it makes the gameplay look exceptionally bad, which is why this was cut out of the main footage. We then get some Sledgehammer gameplay against 6th Street, a cool new clip of what is likely a Tiger Claw boss with what looks to be lightsaber versions of the Arasaka Mantis blades, and then it ends off with some unarmed melee footage. Again, a lot of that will be covered in depth in my trailer analysis video tomorrow. We also received some Russian voiceover gameplay thanks to Night City Wire Special Russian Edition. And yes, that is what it was called. So here's a high quality look at the brain dance scene with Judy Alvarez and Evelyn Parker, but in Russian.
Ну, тогда чего? Запускаем Ви? Пусть там осмотрится как следует.
Давай. Ты готов? Уже бывал в сыром Брейне?
Как-нибудь справлюсь. Давай начинать.
Не вопрос. Ну, садись, располагайся и приступим. Сначала создам твой сенсорный профиль.
Окей, поехали. Надеюсь, больно не будет.
Не, не в этот раз. Так, сиди смирно и смотри на меня. Сейчас я подключу тебя к сканеру. Будет слегка покалывать.
Угу.
Окей, теперь откалибруем оптику и остальные сенсоры. Смотри на эти два экрана, как будто ты окулиста.
Эту калибровку надо будет каждый раз делать?
Не обязательно, но оно того стоит. Погоди 2 минуты, сейчас увидишь, что дает анализ брейн-данса. Еще секунду, надо заблокировать болевые рецепторы. Ну все, готово. Теперь потестим профиль. Я дам тебе что-нибудь на пробу, ну, чтобы освоиться с редактором. Так, что бы тебе тут...
А нельзя его закинуть в мою запись? Быстрее будет.
Лучше не рисковать. Это займет минуту. Я уже нашла кое-что подходящее.
Поехали.
Ага. Я дам тебе сначала усеченную версию, чтобы ты там освоился, а потом пущу в режим изменений. Погружение через 3, 2, 1.
План простой. Никаких выкрутасов. Заходишь, выгребаешь бабло, отваливаешь, и мы продаем брейн этим психам из студии.
Ага, понял.
И не забудь, все по полной программе. Они нам еще доплатят за высокий адреналин. Окей, давай вперед.
Всем лежать! На землю! Целуем пол, живо! Деньги! Быстро! Еще секунды, и я тебя положу! Тише, тише, я... Давай! Ща голову тебе нахуй отстрелю!
Дыши глубже. У тебя подскочили кортизол и адреналин, но софт включил гормональную блокаду. Ничего страшного, ты живее всех живых.
Это было слишком. Я чувствовал боль этого чувака, напряжение и как будто надежду. И было что-то еще.
Понимаю. Он наверняка чем-то закинулся. Скоро отойдешь. Я все подготовила. Переходим в режим изменений.
Now that's a great look at the Russian voiceover work being done for the game, but if you want to know a lot more about it, such as an introduction to the Russian cast and all of the work that is going into this, which is just insane by the way, I just really suggest you go watch the Cyberpunk 2077 Night City Wire Special Russian Edition. The entire thing has captions for both Russian and English and includes a lot of really cool info. And last, for all the news on the different voiceovers for the game, we also received the very good news that the game's Korean voiceover is no longer cancelled.
안녕하세요, Marcin Iwiński-Ipnida. Back in February of last year, we delivered the disappointing news that the Korean voiceover for Cyberpunk 2077 will not happen. Since then, we have received hundreds of emails and thousands of posts asking us to reconsider. Thank you for your passionate voice. It was heard loud and clear. I would like to officially announce that we have decided to move forward with the full Korean voiceover and that a free language update will be available for all of you in December, shortly after releasing the game. We are hard at work on the Korean voiceover as we speak, but check it out yourself. We have prepared a fully voice-overed version of the Geek trailer. Let us know how you like it. 감사합니다.
So as stated in that video, the Korean voiceover for the game won't be available at launch, unfortunately, but will be released as a free update to the game in December, so just 1 month afterwards. We got a bit of a tease for the work that is being done with a Korean voiced version of the Gig trailer, which I unfortunately can't show in full in this video due to copyright, but as always, it will be linked in the description with the rest of the sources. But here's a short teaser with the very end of the trailer that doesn't have music blasting.
덱스! 씨발 뭐야!
조심했어야지, 프리.
근데 넌 뭐지?
씨발.
Now, before we jump into the really fun stuff, I want to quickly cover the fact that a lot of people about 2 weeks ago were thinking that The Verge had an early copy of Cyberpunk 2077. As in their Xbox Series X video, they had Cyberpunk 2077 installing, and a lot of people were pointing this out, thinking that they had an early copy of the game. However, that's actually not the case. It was just a placeholder image from one of the articles from Xbox Wire, which shows Cyberpunk 2077 installing. The Verge does not have an early copy of the game. This is a placeholder image, so no, they didn't have a review copy at the end of September. Now, I don't know if review copies have been released, as I highly doubt I will be one of the people to get one, but I just wanted to clear up that confusion, as a lot of people thought that this meant that The Verge had an early copy. That was not the case. Now, with that out of the way, I want to cover the PC system requirements, as in my opinion, they were very interesting, and they were dropped by CD Projekt Red during Night City Wire Episode 3, and I never got to cover them, I never put them in a video, so here we are. Now, just to note, the minimum is created with low settings and 1080p gaming in mind, and the recommended is with high and 1080p in mind. Unfortunately, we don't know the frame rate target for either of those. However, starting with the minimum system requirements. For the OS, Cyberpunk 2077 requires you to be running 64-bit Windows 7 or 64-bit Windows 10, and DirectX 12 is necessary to run the game. So for anyone that doesn't know what that means, all you need to know is that you can run DX12 games if you meet the minimum OS and GPU requirements. So you have nothing to worry about. For the processor, you need to have a minimum of an Intel Core i5-3570K or AMD FX 8310. These are actually very low minimum requirements for a game this large. So for context, that is a mid-range Intel CPU from 2012 and a mid-range AMD CPU from 2014. So as long as you have one of those or something equivalent, you'll be able to run the game. For the graphics card, you will need a minimum of an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 780 3GB or AMD Radeon RX 470. Again, those are very reasonable. For the RAM, you will need a minimum of 8GB. That's pretty much standard at this point. And lastly, the disk space minimum requirement is 70GB on a hard drive, but they do still recommend an SSD for this one. So all in all, quite low minimum system requirements. But now let's move on to the recommended system requirements, which I honestly found even more interesting. So starting with the OS, they recommend that you opt for 64-bit Windows 10, leaving out the previously mentioned 64-bit Windows 7. And again, DirectX 12 is necessary to run the game. That is the only graphics API that they use for this game. For the processor, they recommend an Intel Core i7-4790 or an AMD Ryzen 3 3200G. For comparison, the 4790 was even the recommended CPU for Fallout 4, a game that launched 5 years ago and wasn't graphically impressive for the time. For the graphics, they recommend an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060 6GB or AMD Radeon R9 Fury. A lot of people were expecting something insane like a RTX 2080, for example, in this slot. So this caught a lot of people by surprise. For the RAM, they recommend 12GB. Again, lower than I expected. 16GB would have been the expected here for me. And last, for the disk space, they recommend that you have 70GB available on an SSD. So honestly, both the minimum and recommended system requirements are much lower than a lot of people were expecting for the game. Now, I will say there is one problem. We don't know the FPS target for these system specs, so I would love if CD Projekt Red could release a bit more details on what sort of experience these system requirements would get you. Is this a 30 FPS target, 60 FPS target? That sort of thing would definitely be more welcome to know. So if they could do something in the lines of what we've seen from Ubisoft, where they give you super detailed information on the resolution target, the FPS target, and the graphics settings, that would be really cool to see. Speaking of which, someone actually brought up this question on Twitter, and Marcin Mamat responded with the following: "We hear you, and we will try to publish configs aimed at 4K, RTX, etc. closer to the release. Stay tuned." So whenever we get those updated system requirements, I'll be sure to cover it immediately. But with the system requirements for the game out of the way, I think it's time we cover the new Night City Love website, which has a ton of info about Night City as well as some brand new screenshots. So right at the top of the website, it gives us a body count report for Night City, which changes throughout the day, which Pavel Sasko had this to say about it on Twitter. Body counter placed just above Welcome to Night City is meant to show how cynical and dry we can become when death is only a statistic, and how effortless it is to get used to it. And as he stated, right below the body count is Welcome to Night City. Whether it's your first time in Night City or you've lived here since the Kress administration, this site has you covered. Get out and explore with our curated selection of the city's top highlights. Impress your friends with nuggets of trivia from our historical overviews of the city and its districts. Navigate NCART like a pro with our TLDR overview. Hit only the hip parts of Haywood and dodge the gangs with safety tips straight from the NCPD. Whatever your Night City dream is, with this site to guide you, it's sure to come true. The history of Night City begins with the dream of one man, visionary industrialist Richard Knight. In the final years of the 20th century, Knight had a vision for a city of the future, one uncorrupted by old ideas and stifling regulations. Backed by some of the world's largest corporations, he made his vision a reality through a bold estate development on California's Coronado Bay. As the rest of the United States started to collapse, entrepreneurs and eager investors flocked to this metropolis of tomorrow. Unprecedented growth and prosperity soon followed. Unfortunately, entrenched interests and jealous rivals were hell-bent on sabotaging Knight's vision, and the unthinkable occurred. Richard Knight was murdered in his own home by unknown assailants. Yet his creation, rechristened Night City in his honor, lived on. In the years that followed, it tossed off the yoke of United States rule and nimbly navigated unthinkable catastrophes, including a nuclear explosion that destroyed its very heart, corporate plaza. Without the help of any sluggish and bloated bloated national government. A shining beacon of success, the resilience of Night City continues to be an inspiration to the world. And now, a word from our mayor. The first time I ran for Night City Council, I burned through about a pair of banditos a week. I canvassed every street, alley, and mega building in my district. I saw a lot and heard a lot more. By the end, I thought I knew everything there was to know about this city. When they showed me this site, I realized just how wrong I was. I almost feel bad revealing all of these secrets to you, visitors to and residents of our fine city. Luckily, there are plenty more you'll have to discover for yourselves. Lucius Rhine. We also know that Night City is having an election for mayor in 2077, with Lucius Rhine running for re-election and 2 other candidates we can see political advertising for on this site, that being Parallels and Weldon Holt, which I'm sure we'll see in action during the game. Next, we got a bunch of information about the forms of transportation available in Night City. For a massive modern metropolis, Night City is surprisingly walkable. You can get almost everywhere on foot. This is not, however, the quickest, safest, or most fashionable way to travel around the city. Here's a quick look at the alternatives. First of which being a car. Good news for car owners. You can park anywhere you like for as long as you like, as paid parking was scrapped completely in the 2060s, partly in response to extreme violence directed at contractors cooperating with MeterMe, a distributed parking enforcement startup. If you need to buy a new car, you'll have plenty to choose from, no matter the balance of your cred chip. Choo-choo stations are plentiful and now subject to an industry-run quality control board, meaning no more bad actors filling your tank with sugar water. Next up is NCART, also known as Night City Area Rapid Transit, is a slick means for fast travel around town. Throngs of people use it every day, as it is the cheapest and often most convenient way to get where they need to get, when they need to get there. The system boasts many access points that form a net extending over the entire city and will whisk you from one to the other with as little hassle and headache as pulling up the latest hits on blast stands. And lastly, are cabs. We highly recommend the Delamain transportation service. These sturdy AI-driven cars will take you anywhere for a surprisingly reasonable fare. Now, CD Projekt Red has also given us some more detailed information on the districts of Night City, including their NCPD assigned threat levels. Starting with City Center. Gargantuan skyscrapers that shade on endless tangle of streets, a neon glow that sets the stage for a ballet of flesh and steel, floodlights and mega screens that blast a sky where hulking AVs glide like fish through the water. This is Night City's core, its heart, its dream turned reality. And at the heart of the heart lies Corporate Plaza, a special zone where corporations govern themselves in every regard, free from outside interference. Meanwhile, downtown is where City Center lets down its hair, home to its most extravagant hotels, delectable restaurants, and exclusive nightclubs. There are countless reasons to visit, so put on your walking shoes, grab your wallet, and get ready to treat yourself. If you haven't already been, you'll want to begin your dive into its nightlife at 7th Hell. This bar was founded by a former mercenary, making it the perfect place to soak in the city's rebel chick ambience and show off your outlaw side with one of their custom cocktails. Whatever you do, don't forget to stop by the gift shop. As for the NCPD threat level in City Center, the Night City Police Department is proud to announce the current threat level for City Center is safe. Rumors of muggings and acts of gang violence in the back alleys and side streets of downtown have either been greatly exaggerated or are grossly out of date, and I feel like that is a load of crap. Now, we also got the following screenshot of City Center, and this scene right here is super unique with the overlapping roads and sidewalk structure that we can see a few NPCs walking about, which we got a clip of in the postcards trailer. And this screenshot also gives you a good sense of the scale of the massive skyscrapers in City Center. We also see a number of vehicles, but I will note that the variety does seem to be lacking in the scene, but that could have been a fluke with the spawn rates for the vehicles. So if that is an issue, it should be ironed out before launch. One specific car I want to point out here is the adorably small smart cars, and it also looks like the NCPD are parked up top. Now moving on to Watson. When nuclear disaster struck Night City's center in 2023, the nearby town of Watson became the ark to which the city's battered but not broken populace fled for shelter. By the 2050s, however, Watson's role had changed from nucleus back to periphery. Yet in Watson's decline, the old American dream found a new foothold. Enterprising souls flocked in from around the world, eager to set their hands to work. True, the revenues of the bazaars pale in comparison to the shareholder value produced in Watson of decades past. Nevertheless, Watson's hovels and alleys now buzz with the most exciting feeling known to man, the hope for growth. The most buzzing bazaar of all is Kabuki, a tangled cluster of alleyways located not far from the old med center, its name a relic of its long-gone Japanese origins. Though notoriously crowded, unsanitary, and rife with con artists, Kabuki is a must-visit home to some of the best bargain hunting in the city. Meanwhile, in the Northside Industrial District, NID, newcomers with a knack for engineering or supply chain logistics write the first chapters for their rags to riches stories in apartments adjacent to the factories that employ them. Come evening, they join other hardworking night citizens in sampling Little China's rich tapestry of cultures and cuisines, their taste buds tickled by its many restaurants and ear-dazzled in the neon glow of its electric storefronts. As for the NCPD threat level, it states, warning, the Night City Police Department's current threat level for Watson is extreme. Gang-related crime is rampant, especially in Kabuki. As for the new image that we got for Watson, it gives us a look at the Northside Industrial District. We can spot a Cali Express, some mega buildings, and ads for Cyrus Cola, among many others. Next up is Haywood. Though not the side of Night City featured in Braindance or flaunted in hollow ads, Haywood exudes a subtle yet unmistakable charm. It boasts a broad variety of shops and restaurants, from the boogie boutiques and seafood saloons along the coast to the colorful open-air markets and taco stands of Vista del Rey. In Haywood, you'll find City Hall, a bustling tower of activity surrounded by the pleasant openness of an urban park. While admiring its architecture, keep your eyes open for city council members as they dart to meetings at Corporate Plaza or simply enjoy a stroll to meet and greet their constituents. Haywood is also home to Reconciliation Park, built to commemorate the cleaning and rebuilding of Corporate Plaza and inaugurate a new era of corporate harmony. Despite rumors spread by the perpetually malcontent, it was not constructed on radioactive landfill left over from the cleanup. As for the NCPD threat level, it states, warning, the Night City Police Department's current threat level for Haywood is partially hazardous. In the eastern and southern regions, gang activity has been noted. Most of this can be attributed to the Valentinos, a violent gang dealing in narcotics, vehicle theft, and a variety of other criminal activities. As for the new image that we got for Haywood, we can see a guy wearing a Samurai Reunion Tour 2020 tank top and the NCPD station watching the area. Up next is Westbrook. Westbrook came of age during the tumult surrounding the Fourth Corporate War, when capital fleeing the radioactive ruins of city center created boomtown conditions in the inner suburbs. Corporate headquarters found temporary asylum outside the Coronado Peninsula, while Corporate Plaza was being rebuilt. And to these hives of innovation and activity soon swarmed all the trappings of urban life, from housing blocks to capsule hotels to street food stalls. Still a mere bridge away from the best career prospects in the city, Westbrook is the desired place of domicile for both the up-and-coming in Charter Hill and the already arrived in North Oak. Those who cannot afford to sleep in Westbrook's bedroom districts still spend their nights here in Japantown, Night City's premier entertainment hub. When the sun sets, crowds pack in the love hotels, kaibakuras, and hostess clubs whose lights glow in thick abundance along Japantown streets. We particularly recommend Clouds, a nightclub where one will find everything from Braindance and beyond, catering to a pleasure seeker's every possible desire. As for the NCPD threat level in Westbrook, the Night City Police Department's current threat level for Westbrook is minimal. A criminal group known by the name Tiger Claws has a strong presence in Japantown, but there's little reason to believe they pose a significant threat to law-abiding residents and visitors. As for the new image we got for Westbrook, it's a little teaser look at North Oak. There isn't a whole lot to see here, but we do get to see an interesting building in the foreground and the North Oak sign leading up to the fancy estates in the background. Moving on to Santo Domingo. In Arroyo, Santo Domingo's industrial heartland, the discarded husks of belly-up factories dot the landscape and have unfortunately attracted the usual bottom-feeding criminals and degenerates. Yet in Rancho Coronado, it's bedroom community. White picket fences beaches and immaculate green lawns surrounding spacious homes in an endless, breathtaking vista. Tree-lined streets snake through it like meadow streams, taking residents from their suburban repos to their workplaces in Arroyo's factories and foundries. When they return in the evening, they can enjoy all the amenities of urban life without having to trek into the city, including shopping centers, schools, and restaurants such as Captain Caliente's, home to the best burrito in town. And all of this comes without the burden of home ownership. The real estate here remains under the control of the corporations who developed it, allowing them to allocate it as best suits their needs. As for the NCPD threat level, they give a warning. The NCPD has issued a warning about a vigilante force active in Santo Domingo known as the 6th Street Gang. Though the veterans who fill its ranks claim they protect their neighborhood from hostiles, the NCPD has perceived numerous reports of their involvement in typical gang activities, including but not limited to protection rackets and armed robbery. As for the new image that we got for Santo Domingo, it gives us a look at the more poor district in Night City. We can spot the Candy Vandals graffiti again, which we saw in the past, the Pacifica Stadium in the background, City Center on the horizon with an Arasaka building, and massive AVs overhead. This just shows you the amount of variety there is in Night City with the types of areas that you can run into. You've got locations like this in Santo Domingo, and then you've got City Center. It's quite the contrast. And last up for the main districts is Pacifica. Before you step foot into Pacifica, close your eyes and imagine boutiques with products for every demographic, pop-up cyberware clinics, and amidst them all, throngs of happy tourists spending their hard-earned Euro dollars, having the time of their lives. Now open your eyes. What do you see? Crippling poverty, crumbling infrastructure, rampant gang violence, and nothing more than you, my friend, lack vision. Other more far-sighted observers see in Pacifica pure potential. With proper investment and robust eviction measures, it may once more become Night City's premier tourist destination. As for the NCPD threat level, warning, the Night City's police department current threat level for Pacifica is catastrophic. In the absence of city authorities, criminal groups control it, specifically the Voodoo Boys. Members of this gang's clothing and body modifications often make reference in some way to the Voodoo religion, hence the reason Night City locals seem to have revived the Voodoo Boys name of an earlier unrelated gang. Furthermore, frequent attacks by scavengers mean many who enter Pacifica leave without vital organs or prized implants. As for the new image we got for Pacifica, this one actually gives us a look at what could be the acid rain weather that was suggested to be a thing in the Russian community Q&A with Philip Weber, as it reminds me a lot of the radiation storms from Fallout 4. We can even see the NPCs using umbrellas, so they will indeed react to the weather in the game. And finally, the outskirts. Areas outside city limits are extremely dangerous, but should you choose to explore them, there are several landmarks of interest to see, preferably from a great distance through the bulletproof windows of an armed convoy. Worth a look are the Biotechnica farms. These immense tent-like structures on the outskirts of Night City are but a few of the many farms Biotechnica manages worldwide, producing synthetic protein derivatives on a massive scale. You could also swing by Rocky Ridge and attempt to construct a self-contained district in the desert east of the city. Streets were plotted out and houses built, ready to welcome the workers employed by the businesses located just next door. Unfortunately, those businesses went bankrupt shortly thereafter, and the neighborhood was abandoned. Now it stands a ghost town and a hotspot for nomad squatting. Finally, the solar power station makes for an impressive sight, with its vast, glistening panels visible from miles away. As for the NCPD threat level, warning, numerous nomad groups regularly roam the areas surrounding Night City. They have adapted a parasitic lifestyle dependent on theft and ambushing of unwary travelers. You are advised to maintain plentiful supplies of food, water, and self-defense firearms. And while we didn't get a new screenshot of the outskirts on the site, they did show us the screenshot of the area V and Jackie are seen evading Arasaka near the border. There are also a lot of ads on the site, including annoying pop-up ads, which are very fitting, so I really suggest you take a moment to check out the site for yourself, but I'll be throwing up a ton of the ads from the site here for you to see. They come in both image and video form. Now, we've also received a ton of new screenshots and asset renders for the game from both the image gallery on the site and release screenshots from the Cyberpunk 2077 Twitter accounts. So let's go ahead and analyze all of those right now. Beginning with a screenshot that seems to 100% be done in photo mode, as this seems way too cinematic looking to be from actual gameplay, with the breathtaking depth of field blur, a soft glow neon light adding some color pop to the scene, and crisp bullet casings midair. Honestly, it's just way too beautiful to not be photo mode, and the only other real thing to note here is the Tiger Claw member seen using the Nakota rifle and wearing a very fancy black suit. Next up, we get a screenshot of V blocking with the electric mantis blades standing in front of a Tiger Claw member seen once again using the Nakota rifle. We then get a screenshot out in the streets of Japantown, showing off some of the open vendors along the sidewalk. We can see a food vendor with a guy walking by with a samurai shirt on, a Cyrus Cola vending machine, and some place with Zhao's in the name. We can also spot Tengu and Below Deck across the street in the background, with a fast travel station on the pedestrian overpass. Next up, we get an insane looking nighttime shot from within Kabuki, looking over to the lit up Japantown. We can see signs for Yagami Market, Softsys, Data Inc., ATAK, Riot, Below Deck, Kuroshi, DTR, Kendachi, and of course, many advertisements. The next screenshot is of an interior pathway with a guy wearing burned corpse shit apparel and a bug-eyed NPC walking toward the camera. There also seems to be a sign that says OK Grill and blank, with 3 food vending machines below. Back in the streets, we can see a civilian version of the Chevron SUV and Thornton Mackinac, trauma team putting a body onto a stretcher, a fast travel station behind the vending machines on the sidewalk, and the building in the background is actually a med center hospital. Moving into one of the markets, we can spot a few different characters. We can also see that NPCs will do random actions while roaming the world, such as using their phones. There is a hotel in the area, as we can see multiple hotel signs, but what's most interesting here is what looks to be the road up above, again giving us an idea of the verticality in the game. They then give us a screenshot of Bhikkhu monks at a shrine, 2 pierogi world stands, a Japanese restaurant, and a neon sign that goes beep. Jumping back to the streets, CD Projekt Red warns us with the tweet, "Don't go there at night," with a Vilfort Alvarado and blown up vehicles in the street. We then get a up-close screenshot of Judy Alvarez, which is one of the community's favorite characters in the game. The amounts of detail in the scene on Judy herself and everything scattered about her desk and office, it just shows you the attention to detail with the level design. We then get a screenshot of another community favorite, that being Jackie in the Afterlife bar. In this shot, we can also spot a few familiar characters in the background. Next up is an updated look at the scene of the trauma team arriving to grab the target Sandra Dorset. This screenshot here gives us an idea of the visual upgrades and world design changes made to the game since 2018. Moving along, we get a screenshot at what looks to be a Vilfort manufactured car, an Archer manufactured car, and what looks to be the Mizutani sports car in the far background. We can spot signs for Kuroshi, Karaoke, Yagama Market, Beep, and a number of ads, such as the ad for Kuroshi with one of the US crack celebrities. We then get some screenshots of City Center, first of which we get a clear view of Mega Building 1, what seems to be a rail for NCART, and the Orbital Air Building. The next shot is the same view as we saw in the postcards trailer, in which we get another angle of Mega Building 1, the Orbital Air Building, and a sign for Thornton. The difference with this screenshot is the vehicles on screen. We can see what looks to be a brown Quadra Turbo R based on some of its details, and a Vilfort manufactured car and van. We then get a look at the edge of City Center, in which we can spot Mega Building 4, 2 other notable mega buildings, a smaller Arasaka building, and a look at the traffic density on highways. But this was also seen in the postcards trailer. Next up is a screenshot of a gunfight going down in the Rancho Coronado subdistrict, in which we can also spot the Petrochem Dam in the background. There are 2 Thornton Mackinacs, the Archer car, a Vilfort manufactured car, and a 6th Street branded sedan. We can also see faded 6th Street graffiti on the pavements, as this is their known territory. At first, I thought this was a huge 6th Street crew taking on a few pestering tiger claws invading on their territory, but if we take a closer look, it looks as if they are wearing the digital masks as we saw on the thugs from the Tools of Destruction trailer. Moving along, we get a trio of screenshots captioned "In the Loop," where we can see what looks to be the end cart rail encased in an odd cage and neon light structure. The first image gives us a look at a number of ads for Biotechnica, Arasaka going to stop the 2071 riots in San Francisco, El Caliente, El Guapo, Night Corp, Delamain, Kang Tao, Love Hub, and more, but we can also spot Mega Building 1 in the background. The second screenshot brings us down to road level, giving us a look at the Thornton Mackinac, the Vilfort cars, a Vilfort Alvarado, a Mahir Motors van, and what looks like 2 sports cars on the other side of the road. Off in the distance, we can also see an ad with Yorinobu Arasaka, which we actually recently got a high quality look at thanks to Carol Costa on Twitter, who is actually featured in the in-game ad. And the third and final angle of this scene gives us a look at an Archer manufactured car, as we can see the logo on the side, a Vilfort car with the logo on the hatch, and a larger, more industrial vehicle on the edge of the scene. We can also spot children in the view of 2 questionable ads, that being Milfgard and Wide Open. The next screenshot is more of a mystery. There isn't much of substance going on here, more just a look at the god rays and colored lighting in the game. We then get another screenshot of the North Side Industrial District, which was released alongside the other NID screenshot we got from Night City Love. Here we can see a mega building, loads of factories, warehouses, what looks to be ruins of some destroyed buildings in the distance, and the one notable building here is the All Foods building in the bottom right, with a pig on the sign and what looks to be multiple lit up vending machines out front. In the background, off to the far left, we can see Japantown, and off to the right in the background, we can see City Center. And while that's it for these screenshots, we did get some art as well. First of which is the full-sized illustration by one of the CD Projekt Red artists that we saw used for the OPM UK cover with a Yaiba Kusanagi and all. We also got an illustration shared for the Mid-Autumn Festival of Nomad V at the El Ducados camp with the girls seen in the Life Paths trailer that a lot of people crushed on. They're seen celebrating around a burning pile of Militech hardware, drinking beers with the logo seen in the background, which we can read next to it says, "Best Choice US of America." And I just want to note those children in the background are literal nightmare fuel. We also got asset renders for each of the gangs, that being the Maelstrom, Valentinos, Voodoo Boys, Animals, Tiger Claws, 6th Street, the Mox, El Ducados, and the Wraiths. All of those are just the full-size renders seen in the Gangs of Night City trailer, which again, my analysis video will be out tomorrow. Now, while that's it for all of the images, we did get some good dev insights from Night City Wire Episode 3 with 2 mini Q&As by Holly Bennett. I think they're definitely worth the watch if you haven't seen them, so I'll include them here in this video. So starting with the first, which is an insight into Night City with Miles Tost, senior level designer at CD Projekt Red. Enjoy.
Well, since Night City is one of our stars of this episode, there is actually quite a lot to talk about. So let's start at the beginning. How did Night City come to be? Because yes, it exists in the world of the tabletop, but how do you take that and make what we've got now?
Well, yeah, as you can imagine, making a city that is as big and complex as Night City is quite the ambitious project. First off, we sat down and we were really considering what is it that we wanted to do with Night City. In a way, Night City is the star of Cyberpunk, right? It is one of its main characters. We wanted to make a city that is very, very believable, right? I mean, the word immersion gets thrown around a lot, but really, we wanted you to be able to dive into it and feel like this is a real place. And then secondly, we also wanted to provide enough variety between districts so that exploring Night City would always be fun, right? There's no point in making a city that is all same-ish and, you know, it doesn't really matter where you go because once you've been through one district, you feel like you've been through all of them. So for that, we first off started taking a look at the real-life geography that Night City is located on, and that would be on the coast of California. Knowing that Night City would be a coastal city gave us a bit of insight into what we would expect from the city layout. You'd expect a port, you'd expect huge industrial areas that would facilitate this kind of trade that you would assume a city of this type would have with the world. And then we went through and actually divided the city into several districts, 6 of them, and some of them are based on the original lore. We decide to give their own characteristics in terms of architecture, their demographics, the kind of people that would live there, and also the function within the city. Each of these districts in turn we divided into further sub-districts, which we further characterized using the more grand theme of the larger district. This process, I think, has resulted in a city that feels quite alive, has a lot of character, where each district feels like its own distinct zone without feeling separated from the larger picture. And that results in something that allows the player to easily navigate even the complex concrete jungles of Night City simply by looking around and always having a rough idea where you actually are.
But Night City is clearly so different from anything we've ever created with The Witcher. Can you give us some idea about, or some insight into just how big and like how densely packed Night City really is?
Yes, so I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying that Night City is easily the most complex thing that I or the others have worked on. The city is super organic, right? It's not like a chessboard layout, but the layout of the city is crazy, and you can tell that it grew in phases, right? Where buildings have been built on top of each other, and I guess the mega buildings that we have showcased are a great example of this. You'll actually see that they are located on some kind of pillar, you know, and then expand outside and then up high into the sky, and underneath it you'll have space for other buildings. This yields a lot of interesting experiences when it comes to exploration, and that's the one thing I'm most excited about for players to experience. We've been saying that our exploration is super vertical, right? But what this really means is that it changes the way you explore the city. Compared to our previous games, you won't be able to easily set out on a target in the distance, right? You won't be able to say, oh, there's a castle on a hill over there, I'll try to get there, and then you'll be lost on the way. But here it's much more intimate, much more moment to moment. You might be roaming the cities and get a call by your fixer who informs you about a job nearby that you might be able to do, right? Or you find an alleyway and you walk down one of the many alleyways that the city has to offer, and it's always a surprise. You don't know if you might stumble upon some gangers hanging out that are up to no good. Sometimes, and these are the moments that I often get surprised with, you'd even stumble upon the odd elevator that is meant to connect parts of the, you know, different layers of the city. And it's quite astonishing sometimes to see where you come out when you enter one of these and, you know, find that, oh, this is actually how it connects to the world. That's crazy. And now I'm here, and now I know there's a shortcut that I can take. And again, this all serves to really enhance this sense of wonder that we all come to love from open world games, and the whole city is built to cater to that.
I mean, you guys have really brought Night City to life, and I really want to make a point of that. It is a living, breathing city. So as a level designer, can you give us some insight into those little touches that you guys have made? Because I hear you guys have even been placing rubbish by hand.
Oh yes, we've been placing quite a bit of rubbish, and that's certainly one of the more glorious parts of being a level designer or an environment artist, where you get to litter the streets that you've spent time building with the garbage. But it's details such as this that we find really important to make the city feel alive, and also we take great pride in the process of making this, right? We have a lot of fun actually placing a lot of what we call mini stories, right? These are little encounters that you can find when you simply walk along the streets. Of course, we have huge quests, right? Side quests, we have lots of side activities that you can do, but it always is nice to just kind of stop down for a minute and take a look at your surroundings that we have so lovingly created, and try to see if there maybe isn't something that you can be a little detective for. Now, one other thing that I think is really cool is also the fact that we have actually named every single street in the city. So not only will NPCs be able to communicate their locations or the locations they want you to visit by sort of referring to the street names, but also you will be able to talk to your friends about it in that way, right? Have you been to Poplar Street in Japantown, for example? And I think this is a small detail, but the philosophy that we have with these kind of things is that, you know, many small things contribute to the sum of it, which is hopefully then you being able to explore a city that you feel is truly alive and that you haven't been experiencing before.
So I'd say my biggest highlight from all of that is the fact that every single street in the game is named, and NPCs will actually refer to those names in dialogue. Again, the attention to detail is spot on. But moving on to the second clip, which is an insight into the gangs of Night City with Mateusz, quest director for Cyberpunk 2077.
Mateusz, thank you so much for joining us. I have personally been really excited to give people a closer look at the gangs. We've shown a little bit on Twitter, but their styles are so distinct.
Yes, I enjoyed them a lot as well in our game. I think they're very cool.
But let's start then with the kind of role that they play, because gangs really do play a prominent role in Night City, correct?
Yes, definitely. The gangs, they rule the streets of Night City. You know, they have the newest cyberware, they have the newest weaponry, and they are really a power that everyone needs to take into account when they are thinking of operating in Night City. You will encounter them as you explore the city, of course, but also as you complete main quests, side quests, different jobs for the fixers. Sometimes you might even get hired by them.
But then, I suppose everybody's thinking then, can you join a gang?
Well, V is a merc, and mercs of Night City are this unique, distinct group that stick mostly to themselves, right? And they get jobs from a variety of factions. They can get jobs from corporations, they can get jobs from gangs, they can get jobs from different kind of like influential clients. Because of this, nobody will ever trust a merc to be one of them, right? And the gangs are no exception here. They are looking only for like people that they know will be loyal to them, right? And that they will fight for their cause all of the time, not just some of the times when it's profitable to them. So because of this, V will mostly stick to the afterlife. And the afterlife are this group of mercs, this legendary group of mercenaries in Night City. They get the best jobs, they get the most money, the best clients, and so on. So if you want to become a legend in Night City, you are going to the afterlife.
So we've obviously mentioned distinct style then. So does that mean there are kind of special gang-themed weapons and items and clothing for players to find and use?
Yes, definitely. There are different vehicles that you can drive, for example. There are cars, there are motorbikes. Then, of course, there are different pieces of clothing themed after gangs. There are weapons and so on. So yeah, definitely there are things to look forward to.
I suppose as somebody who's spent as much time as you have kind of getting to know the gangs, I have to ask, which is your favorite and why?
So I would have to say probably Maelstrom, simply because they have this unique, distinct feel and this weird aesthetic about them. So the idea about Maelstrom is they are people who want to cross the boundary between the machine and human, right? They are changing so much of their body with cyberware that they no longer look human, really. On top of that, they are also very unpredictable. It's very difficult to say what they will do at any point when you meet them. At one moment, they can be shaking hands with you, and at the other moment, you know, they will pull gun out on you, and they bring in this element of chaos into the game, which I really enjoy personally.
So some of this was repeated information, but it's always nice to hear some more details from the developers themselves. So it was definitely worth the watch, in my opinion. Now, in one of my past videos, I mentioned the Rockstar and NCW4 Red partnership, and at the time we didn't have a full reveal of the grand prize. All we knew is that it was a full-blown car inspired by the in-game Quadra that we had seen in the past. Well, the car itself has finally been revealed with a ton of new images, and it's a 1970 custom Mustang. It's got the Quadra branding on the grille and, of course, a load of Rockstar logos. And for something Cyberpunk 2077 themed that is a bit more achievable for you, Razer and CD Projekt Red just recently revealed the new Razer Viper Ultimate Cyberpunk 2077 edition. And while it sold out in the first 5 minutes, it will apparently be coming back in stock sometime soon, TM. And while I think that this thing is absolutely sexy, I just finished buying my Razer Viper Ultimate a couple of months ago, and to be honest, not a huge fan of yellow themed setups, so I likely won't be grabbing one myself unless I just want to have it sitting on the shelf for absolutely no reason. Now, before we end off this video, keep in mind that I will have a massive breakdown and analysis video for the Gangs of Night City trailer out tomorrow. which you will not want to miss. I will hopefully have a ton of details in there that nobody else really pointed out. I'll also be live streaming Night City Wire episode 4, and we'll be making in-depth analysis videos for that as well. And don't worry, they will not take 3 weeks this time. But that's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please smack that like button down below, subscribe to Unlead Fight if you haven't already, and ring that bell icon to saved in all of my future videos. It would be super greatly appreciated as always. And until next time, this is Epoxy signing off.